Hello everybody and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with Shane as per usual.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. We are going to be taking a look at the basically all the data from the Transatlantic Open and kind of just break it down for you and what factions are doing well, what factions are not doing so well, and kind of just try to unravel this competitive format.
Yeah, this was a 36-man tournament. It's still going on. We're entering quarterfinals right now. But yeah, I mean, 36 players, that's quite a bit for a kill team tournament. I mean, it's obviously it's coming off of bats with over 60 players. It doesn't seem huge, but then you think about it in terms of all the tournaments we've seen, and TAO is up there.
Yeah,
for
it's a
participants. It's pretty big. This is like what we see from like SoCal or like a BAO, like roughly. So this is absolutely a big tournament. And I think that the data, it could be interesting to look at it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we want to first, before we look at actual results?
We should probably explain the format that this is. Yeah.
So it was much like BAO, it was a group stage. So we had, I believe there's 9 groups.
Something like that, yeah.
It's basically 9 pods of 4 players each. And they do a single round robin, and then they each play 3 games, each player, and the top 2 in each group make it to they make it out of the group stage,
right?
And then they enter the round of 16, except for the 4 lowest scoring players out of groups enter like a wild card round, and then they have to win in that to enter the round of 16. So, and from there it's just a single elimination bracket.
Yep.
So right now we have basically the statistics for just about every single round of 16 game except for 1, and all the group stage and wildcard games. So there's only 8 players left after this round. So we'll do a full top 8 breakdown after the tournament's over.
Right.
But for now, this is just like, let's see how 90% of the games that are going to be played in this tournament went.
Yeah. And so for context, we should probably explain like the actual like tournament rules. So kill teams were limited to 100 points each.
Yep.
And then the primaries are kill 1, hold more. And then the secondaries were basically just everything out of the arena box. All the secondaries in the arena box, right?
Yeah. It's the Ibericon packet that we talked about back on our podcast on the Spanish kill team. This is a Spanish packet. We got it translated to English, decided to play it over here.
Yeah. Shouts out to Luz for doing that.
Yes. It's, yeah. So I guess before we look at the results, we should probably look at the factions that were played. And we do have a little faction breakdown here of what was played. So we've got all these different charts.
There's a lot of data here, courtesy of
basically 3 ways to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drakari, the most played faction here. We had 6 Drakari players.
Yeah.
They are the flavor of the month.
Yeah, they are.
They're very good. We had them at the very tip top of our tier list for good reason. They do it all. They do everything you need to do on this packet. They're very flexible.
They do. On this, it's also an open board format, I forgot to say.
Yeah, so deep strikes.
Yeah, so things like deep striking mandrakes. Their ranged weapons like the Darklands is actually effective here, whereas on an arena map it's not very effective.
Yeah.
So that kind of unlocks some more lethality for the faction to be able to bring to the table.
Yeah, and then beyond that we had 3 Astartes, 3 Militarum, 3 Asuryani, and 3 Demons to tie for second.
Yeah.
Astartes, you expect to see a lot of Astartes at every tournament.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised there weren't more than 3.
Yeah.
They really do struggle here in this format, though, so I'm not too surprised. Astra Militarum, I'm surprised we didn't see more Astra Militarum. They're very good here as well. Asuryani, they are Asuryani. They're great. Not much to say about that.
No.
And then Demons, which a lot of people thought Demons...
That's a surprise.
Yeah, well, there was some, people were saying that they thought Demons were going to be really good in this format. We kind of talked about it again in the tier list video. We weren't huge fans of Demons in the packet.
No.
And I think the results so far, we'll get into that later, but I think the results have shown a little bit of their weaknesses.
Yeah.
In the format. Below that, with 2 players each, there's Death Guard, Grey Knights, Heretic Astartes, Tau, Tyranids, Admech, and that's all. So after that, it's just 1 per.
Yeah.
And that's basically rounding it out. It's Death Watch, Gene Cult, Harlequins, Orcs, Sisters of Silence, and Thousand Suns. So, yeah, I mean, the amount of Drakari really kind of like, there's usually a bigger, I feel like there's a lot of factions that just aren't
represented.
Yeah, aren't represented here.
Yeah, so we actually have those as well. Custodes, Sisters of Battle, Necrons. No Necrons.
That's probably the big one.
That's the big one. Yeah,
0
for sure.
people brought Necrons.
And then the other ones, it's not really surprising. Star Striders, Gellerpox Infected, Kroot, Servants of the Abyss. Like those factions, unfortunately, rarely ever appear.
Yeah, so out of these, which do you think, out of curiosity, do you think was the best faction that wasn't represented?
That wasn't represented.
Probably Necrons, right?
Yes, without a doubt, Necrons.
Yeah. I'd say
I don't know
honorable
if
mention.
People are just sick of Necrons, or
that's got to be it. I think
because they're still good in this format,
for sure,
right?
I think they are. Yeah, Novak is, even with barely any cover and on an open board, I think Novak is still fine. Yeah. Shout out to Gellerpox. I've been playing them a little bit, and I think they are pretty decent on this format. I think they're a lot better than the other unrepresented teams, and I think they're better than plenty of the teams that were represented. So, yeah. So I guess let's take a look at the faction win percentage. Yeah. Just flat. So obviously this is going to be a little bit skewed because, for instance, with Gene Stealer Cult, they're at number 1, but they're only 3-0. Actually, I think
that might be out of date.
Yeah, this is out of date. They're actually, at this stage, they're 3-1 now because Matt Howell was the player that took them. He's a very good player. He's very good at Gene Stealer Cult. He won his group with them, and then actually lost out in the round of 16 to Ray J, weirdly enough, who he beat in group stage. Yeah. So they had a rematch. Ray had to play through the wild card, only to have to face Matt again, and then Ray took it with his Admech. Mm-hmm. So Gene Cult should be 3-1 right now. Thousand Suns, I believe that is correct. 3-1 right now. That's James Skinner, the lone Thousand Suns player. He is I guess you'd say a Thousand Suns main. He's pretty good with them. He took them to top 8 at LVO, and he's currently in the top 8 for TAO here. So good for him. Below that, we have Drakari. So this is probably the most impressive one, despite being 3rd highest.
Yeah. 17 wins, 6 losses, and then how many of those losses were due to a mirror match?
I think 3 of them.
3 of them? Yeah.
So they've lost to Demons once.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else has beaten them. I believe Tyranids was the other thing that beat them once. And then...
Did Tau beat a Drakari team?
Oh, actually, yes. No, not Tyranids. I think it was 2 Tau victories over...
Oh, okay.
Because
didn't
both Tyranid and Alec had a Drakari player that they both were able to win against in their group. Mm-hmm. 17-6. So we were hyping up Drakari before the tournament. So far, they are very, very good.
Yeah.
That's an insane win rate. Admech at 5-2. They were another faction that we had rated really highly. There were only 2 Admech players. One of them went 2-1 and actually didn't make it out of groups because of the tiebreaker. Right. Just ended up that way. About as good as you can do without making it out of groups. Mm-hmm. And the other is Ray J, who we mentioned earlier, who is currently in the quarterfinals now. Yeah. So, yeah, Admech doing pretty well here. Yeah. Astra Militarum also coming in really well with a 70% win-loss. 2 players, I believe. No, 3, right? We were just looking at that. And it is, it's not too huge of a shock. I think
Yeah.
they handle themselves really well in this packet.
One of those players is also Micromancer, so
Yep.
there's that.
And then there's this guy Rashist Fern, I believe his name is on the tournament. And he is currently in the quarterfinals right now. So we could be seeing potentially 2 Militarum in quarterfinals potentially. 2 made it out of groups. They're good here. And then there's Tau.
Yes.
4-3, so 57% win rate.
Yeah.
So it was just, I believe it was just Alec Berryman and Bieranid took them. And they coincidentally ended up in the same group and tied each other. So what this should say is 4-3-2 because they have two ties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tau are good here. I mean, it's pretty unfortunate for them that they ended up in the same group. It's just
that's very unfortunate.
Luck of the draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think they do pretty well on a board like this.
Oh yeah, it's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, this movement is something that is really nice, especially flying movement.
Oh yeah,
on a board like this.
Yeah, because it has the same board layout as what we saw in LVO in 2019, right?
Yeah, well, 2020 technically.
Or 20. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, those 4 shipping containers or whatever on it, they're not counted as impassable terrain on this packet, so the Tau drones can just fly right on top of them, over them, whatever.
Yeah. And then right below that is Demons, who are 5-5. That is going to remain their win rate because I don't believe any Demons made it to quarterfinals, so they're going to clock out at a 50% win rate.
Yeah.
Pretty average. I'm not huge on Demons. It's hard to take enough bodies at 100 points, especially on such an open board where you aren't going to get shot off and forced to break like early on in the game, like turn 1 or 2. I had to play Demons in my group stage. Ended up forcing a break test round 2, which he failed, and then that was pretty much it. Like, you can't do anything after you fail that break. Tyranids?
Grey Knights.
Oh, Grey Knights. I skipped them, yeah.
Grey Knights have the same win-loss percentage, 50%. Were you surprised at all by this? Because they can only bring like 5 bodies at most.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and on a board like this, where it's like I don't remember what like their pods were, but
I was in a group with one of them, so I had to play them with my Drakari. Ended up winning out. It's definitely harder for Grey Knights in a situation like this. So you've taken away kill more, which is something that they really like because they're just ultra killy.
Yeah.
It's a super open board, which means that it's possible for them to get shot off because they are not survivable really as far as Marines go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I was surprised that both Grey Knight players made it out of their group stage. This is another situation like Demons where the 4-4, that's as good as it's going to get because they haven't made it to quarterfinals, so there's no more Grey Knight games to be played.
Right.
So that's how it'll be. I think that they're a little bit worse than that score. Like if we're going back to like the faction truths, like what's the truth in these stats, I think they're worse than that.
Yeah.
But players did well. I guess good pilots. And then below we have Tyranids.
Yeah. So is this now 3-5 or?
Yeah, if this wasn't updated today, then this is 3-5. The last Tyranid player was just eliminated?
I think so.
So yeah, Tyranids, we had them ranked pretty highly. I would say they're a bit better than 3-5, 3-4. I probably would have pegged them to be like.
I would have thought they would be better than Grey Knights for sure.
Yeah, and I think they are on this packet. Truthfully, it's just kind of how it's turned out here. 3-4, 3-5, whichever it is. But now as we go below Tyranids, we're getting into the real kind of like bottom feeders of the tournament.
Yes.
So Death Guard next, 2-4. Death Guard, I mean, it's not that easy to make Death Guard work. They're easy to pilot just from a rules perspective, but finding competitive success with them is like a whole different ball game, in my opinion. Back in the days of like pure like hold, you could just pox spam.
Yeah.
And that was probably a little bit simpler than what you have to do now, where you have to find sort of a balance between the spam and the killing potential of the Marines. T5 doesn't go as far as you think it does. I mean, yeah. Heretic Astartes right below, 2 and 4. I don't believe any heretics made out of groups. Same for Death Guard.
Yeah. I think they ended up lower than I expected.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I thought Heretic Astartes shooting was underrated.
Yeah, the thing is, to make their shooting like reach its full potential, you need a Terminator. As weird as it sounds, because their only source of a comm specialist is the Terminator gunner.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so like the core Heretic Astartes shooting list that we've seen before, it's like the 2 gunners, an aspiring champ with something, and then the Terminator champ, and as a comm specialist. And it's hard to pull that off at 100 points. Yeah, I mean, so what we saw basically was, I believe it was just Renegade chapters. And a pure melee team, not pure melee, but mostly melee. It's not as easy to get away with that play style as it is on like Arena, like we saw in BAO. They definitely struggle a little bit more here.
Yeah.
And then there's Death Watch. There's only 1 player, 1 and 2. Once we start getting into like 1 player on the faction, it's harder to take the stats so seriously, because you know, it's just like a very isolated experience. 1 and 2, Death Watch are a bit hard to play here, just because I think it's hard to play when you can only take like 5 or 6 bodies.
5 or 6 bodies, yeah.
It's really difficult, especially when they're not very survivable.
Yeah.
Harlequins, again, not very survivable. It's a purely elite team. They do have the mobility to cross in, but I mean, I think it's tough. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you just by looking at the stats, I'm very happy that I decided to go with Drakari instead of Harlequins. I can tell you that much right now.
Yeah.
I know it was just 1 player. It's an isolated experience, but yeah. Very, very happy I chose Drakari.
Sisters of Silence 1 and 2. I do actually, the Sisters of Silence and Harlequins stats are a little weird, and that's because there was like they were in the same group, and the 1 Harlequin player ended up dropping from the tournament, so like I think free wins were given out somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, neither faction made it out of groups. So, and then here's the biggest shock.
This was huge. I get that there were only like 2 RCRN, 3 RCRN players. But at only a 22% win-loss percentage on this sort of format is frankly shocking.
Yeah, I definitely think they're better than 2 and 7.
Yeah.
They have the tools. I mean, LVO, we saw it.
Yeah.
They were dominant, and I don't think that the subtle like, I don't know. Austriani are not a team that gets worse from 125 to 100.
No.
That's not a jump that tremendously helped them. If anything, relatively it hurt them, just because other factions were able to get a little bit more to catch up.
Yeah, so you would think at this 100 points they would be performing better than most other factions that did benefit from the 25-point increase.
Yeah,
but that's just not the case here.
Yeah, the 1 did get out of groups. It was Worzel, Peter Worsley. I actually had to play him. It was a really tight game. My round of 16.
That's right. Yeah.
I think I won 15-14, barely scraped by
15-14 or 16-15,
something like that.
Something like that.
They have the tools to be really good here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to Adeptus Astartes.
How far they have fallen. Yeah, you know, to me this kind of like I haven't seen any of the Astartes games. I didn't watch any of them, but like just looking at this, it's like I'm like convinced that like Astartes are not a shooting faction.
Oh no. I mean, if you want to look at them as a shooting faction, then it's like looking at a worse Death Watch. Honestly, because Death Watch are just the same, but they have better shooting, in my opinion.
Especially at 100 points.
Yeah. And Astartes, I mean, they really thrive with their flexibility, and I don't think that, I don't know, they can't take the bodies to really succeed on a board like this.
Right. Reliably play positional objectives.
Yeah, I mean, at BAO, you can get a 6-man list with a bunch of Storm Shields where every single one of those 6 models is really impactful. If you want to run a 6-man list with 100 points, it's not... A couple of those models are going to end up being like maybe like a scout with a knife or a bolt gun or like a tac marine.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get... Like, if you want every model to be impactful, you're looking at like 4 or 5 models.
Yeah.
And that's just not enough.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. I know this is probably like the third thing that I've forgotten to mention about this format since the start of the video, and I sincerely apologize for that. But the secondaries are determined randomly. It's the TO rolls a D8, and that decides one of the 8 set of secondary objectives that the players are allowed to pull. And if Astartes get a bad draw, it's like, what can you do? If you get majority positional secondaries, you're already on your back foot trying to recover from that.
No, definitely. I mean, and again, Astartes, they're a very flexible faction, so they have that going for them, but
they're flexible, but they're also expensive. Yeah.
Very expensive for 100 points.
So it's like, I feel like the BAO format was like where we could potentially see them like peak in the grand history of competitive kill team. Or maybe they just do better on arena formats, I think, when you have free choice secondaries.
They do better on arena, they do better at 125, they do better with kill more. Just take away a lot of their favorite things, and that's kind of like what this packet ended up being for them.
Yeah.
And it's rough.
Yeah.
And then right at the bottom, the only 0% is Orcs. There's only one Orc player. And there's something to take away from this because that Orc player ran freebooters. And I remember saying at one point in our Orc faction deep dive that freebooters at 100 points just doesn't work. You can only take one flash get without really sacrificing numbers. And it's really hard to get a meaningful engine going. Yeah, that flash get might kill something
off.
Yeah, but it's only one, and then you don't have a second flash get waiting there to like really benefit from those modifiers. You're looking at like big shooters and stuff, and it's just hard to get the snowball going.
Rolling, yeah.
So I guess we could take a look at the performance just to see where, like we've kind of mentioned some of this already.
Yeah.
So this graph on the right, it's basically green means they've made it into the top 8. Red means that's the amount that fell out in group stage. Yellow is round of 16. So far we've got 1,000 Suns player in top 8. We've got 1 Tau player guaranteed in top 8. I believe it is 1 Militarum player, potentially 2, depending on how your game goes with micro.
That's right.
And then we've got what is that? 4? No. How many Drakari do we have in top 8? I'm seeing 4.
There
Is
are
that
4
true?
players in the Elite 8.
So I'm thinking myself.
Yeah.
Manko won today, so he's in top 8.
I'm not, because I haven't played my game yet.
Yeah. There's Danger
I will be, though.
Pro. He is in top 8.
There's really 3 in the Elite 8.
Yeah, and there should be
and
2 in 16 for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
my game's to be decided. Okay.
We could be seeing, though, so rewind to LVO. We saw 3 of the 8, top 8 were Asuryani. And we kind of joked about how crazy it would have been if half of the top 8 were Asuryani. We are legitimately looking at that possibility of half the top 8 being Drakari.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
Oh, yeah. Drakari, I mean, they're... I feel like they're broken already as a faction in any sort of open format. But on this format, I think just because they're so flexible and they're not confined to arena, so you can play them in a lot of different ways. They can play positional as well as kill-based secondaries very well. Yeah. They kind of just check all the boxes for this sort of format.
For sure. Pair that with an amazing deep strike.
Yes.
And that's pretty scary.
All their maneuverability shenanigans that are just very economically costed.
Yeah. Anyway, so right now there's 1 Militarum in top 8. Again, depending on how your game with Micro goes, it could be 2.
Yeah.
In which case we would not have the 4 out of 8 Drakari. Also moving on, we've got a single Tau in top 8. That's Alec Berryman.
Right.
And Thousand Suns in top 8 with James Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, like a lot of the factions that we liked on the format are in this position. Oh, and then there's also Adamek in top 8, which isn't listed here, but that is the case right now. That's a Astartes. Yeah, Adamek. Right there. Yeah, so it's listed as top 16, but Ray did beat Matt.
Yeah.
I don't think that game is been updated on here onto the spreadsheet.
I don't think so either, because it says that...
It also said Gene Stealer
Calder's still in. Yeah.
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 I mean, yeah. They, so, I mean, looking at the comparison from Freak Wars, which used the same board, same packet, the finals there were Gene Stealer, Cult, and Orcs, and there's not a Gene Stealer, Cult, or an Orc in our top 8 even. So it's interesting kind of seeing the differences from region to region. I also believe there was 2 Tau in their top 4, 3rd and 4th place.
Yeah.
It's one of those Tau was Tyranid, who just lost to you in the wild card round.
That's
which
right.
We have uploaded onto our channel. That was a pretty tight game.
Yeah, you should see something popping up on the screen right now.
Ooh, very fancy.
Yeah, we're real professional.
Look at it, everybody. But yeah. So, any shocks for you? I mean,
obviously we've talked about Asuryani. Do you mean just what's shocking to see appear in top 8?
Yeah. Anything really taking you off guard?
Honestly, like Thousand Suns.
Yeah, I think they were the lowest on our tier list to be here in top 8. We still had them like solidly B tier. But yeah, again, James he's an experienced Thousand Suns player.
Seasoned veteran.
Yes. Yeah. I believe he was top 4 at LVO. He won in the first round of the top 8 against Alec Berryman. I believe he had to beat Grey Knights to make it here to top 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So got that Psyker matchup out of the way, and the winner of you and Micro is gonna have to play him.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, out of all of this, I am shocked there was no Necrons. I definitely think somebody could have taken Necrons to top 8 here.
I think there was just so much vitriol towards the faction in our over in our Discord that people just didn't want to run them.
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of happened with Tau at Nova.
LVO.
LVO, because of Nova prior.
Yeah. Nova getting dominated by Eric, the Tau player over there. That the community at that time, like right around the time of LVO, like right before, people just hated Tau.
Yeah.
Understandably. But yeah, I think we're kind of seeing the same thing towards Necrons right now. And I bet after this tournament, we're going to see something similar towards Drakari.
If not already. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Last tournament, Necrons were one of the most represented. Now they're nowhere to be seen. Before LVO, there was a Tau all over the place, a lot of Tau players. And then there was basically, I think there's 1 out of like 53 players. And 6 Drakari players here, really well represented. I've seen way more negativity about Drakari than I did about Necrons even. Like, people hate these guys.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It wasn't until I posted my roster that I started to really see just how much crap this faction gets.
Oh, yeah.
And they are ridiculous. They're very strong.
They are, yeah.
And, I think you put them in the hands of a good player, too, and it's like, it's no wonder we have, people in the top 8
almost
with this faction.
Half of the top 8 playing Drakari. Yeah.
Closing remarks.
Everything is proceeding as foreseen.
Nothing too surprising.
Drakari are really good. There's a few surprises going along so far, but yeah, that's basically where we're at with the Transatlantic Open.
Yeah.
Hope you guys sort of enjoyed this segment. Hope you all learned something. And
thanks to Clay for putting together the spreadsheet for us.
Yeah.
It will be probably posted in the description of this video for anybody to go look at for themselves.
Yeah.
And I believe the rosters are posted on here as well. So
they are.
If you want to take a look at any of the command rosters of these players, go check it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.